Yo, call me a nutter butter, the way I'm with your other mother. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Game Sketch. Today, and only today, we are here to discuss, that's right, a potential Sonic 06 remake that was teased and hoped for, and how this literally, and I mean literally, caused warfare online. So we're gonna talk about all the pros, the cons, how people think, everything, and I figured we just sit down, do a nice traditional discussion video, and you guys, of course, as always, make sure to subscribe to your boy, support the content, and let me know what you think down below. So we got a lot to talk about, so I'm just gonna get into it. Of course, I'm gonna actually go through the whole interview because there's actually a lot of cool little tidbits and pieces of information that you would like to see. So basically, Kazuyuki Hoshino and Nakamura and Katsuyuki Shigehara joined the official Sonic fan meeting in Jakarta, Indonesia for a Q&A panel. So they got the gang over here for a Q&A. So there's a few interesting tidbits. So first, they talked about Sonic Shadow Gens. You know, Shadow's design is influenced by traditional Kabuki Tsujikuma makeup, representing a strong superhuman hero, which is cool. Shadow Generations White Space Hub was originally not supposed to be as big as it is in the final game, which thank God it was, because it was awesome. Shigehara Doom powers Black Arms get their energy by absorbing it from Earth, which I did not know that. So that's like a cool piece of lore, I guess, that Black Arms get energy from Earth, but like, where did they initially get it if they weren't on Earth? I have no idea. With the reveal of Eggman and Maria's extended family and their occupation in the Museum of Shadow Generations, he's also had time to think of ideas for a potential Eggman spin-off game and candidly Robotnik family drama. I don't know how an Eggman game would be, really, right? Is that a type of game that's like a beat 'em up? Is that a type of game you make like a visual novel of? Because realistically, if I'm being honest, I don't think you can sell an Eggman game, you know, full price at a store. I think maybe you could do a Sonic Shadow Gens thing where it's like bundled with something or as a DLC or that, but I don't think Eggman is gonna sell like millions of copies, even though he's really popular. But I do like the idea, and I hope we get it in some way. Like I said, even if they make it like Murder of Sonic, where it's just like a family drama with the Eggman family, I think that'd be really good. But the meat and the sauce comes from this part of the interview. So right here, Nakamura said Silver was originally supposed to be an alien with psychic powers before finally being designed as a hedgehog from the original, which that's kind of crazy that I guess there was a point where Silver would have been like a bum random alien instead of one of the big hedgehog boys. When asked about the next step forward for Sonic, he says Sonic Team will take inspiration from past iterations. When asked if Sonic Team will remaster past games like 06, hit series like Heroes, Adventure 1, 2, and even consider Adventure 3. He says that old and new games remain appealing. He has previously said he personally wishes for an opportunity to remake Sonic 2006. So that was the big one. That was the massive moment there. There's some updates over here I'd like to add. Nakamura's interest in revisiting 06, which he initially expressed at a fan meetup last month, highlights his connection to the game as the project's director. Yes, so he was the original director on the game, and he just expressed that he would love to, or would like to at least, remake Sonic 06. Now this, I'm telling you, bro, this caused warfare. I'm talking about people being like, don't touch that game. I'm talking about people being like, this is the best idea ever. I'm talking about people being like, no, I don't want this with the money, guys. It's been a bloodbath. Now, I'm not going to go and show individual tweets and all that because I'm not going to, you know, there's a lot of good tweets that talk about it, but I just figured I would take what I learned and understood from people talking about it and just apply it here, and we could talk about, you know, the pros and cons here together. So let's start with just initially, what do I, Fidel Gamesketch, think of a potential Sonic 06 remake? I love the idea, right? I think the idea of taking what is one of your most ambitious games, right, that flopped like crazy and became one of the most notoriously bad games in gaming history, and potentially turning that to an amazing masterpiece, I think that sounds really appealing to me, right? To me, that sounds exciting. It sounds different. It sounds, I don't know, a lot of remakes nowadays just remake their biggest hits, right? I think of, you know, like RE remakes, like remaking RE4, which people already consider a masterpiece, or remaking FF7, right? Or remaking, you know, a bunch of other games like the Crash remakes or whatever. Like a lot of remakes just tend to like remake, here's our best games, let's just make it look better, change some stuff, right? But it's very few times we ever see companies do a thing where they're like, hey, what if we took one of our games that had potential that we never got to fully do justice back in the day and remake that instead? You know, like instead of Nintendo potentially remaking Mario 64, why not remake Mario Sunshine, right? And so I feel like it's more fun and interesting if companies were to take the games of theirs that flopped, right, or didn't do well and make something grandiose out of them because they had really, and I mean really cool ideas, and they were screwed over just because of, you know, low development time or how games were back in the day, etc., etc. And so the idea of being like, holy shit, we are gonna get a Sonic 06 remake and it's gonna be like a modern video game and they nail the story and everything, I think to me sounds incredible. Now, there is a lot of pros, cons, and challenges that come with something like this, right? The biggest sort of aspect of criticism I saw is people, and assumption people were making is people don't want 06 to become a modern boost game, which there's a lot of looseness with that term, because what are you talking about, like boost and like how it used to be boost, or we're talking about like modern boost? Because I think, and we could kind of all agreed that Shadow Gens and Frontiers, like, they have boosts, but they're not like a traditional boost game. They're not like, you know, Generations where you are all right, straight line lobby, right? With Shadow Gens, you have more open levels. Obviously, you have boosting segments, but you have more open levels, more movement, longer levels, right? And you think of, you know, Sonic Gens, Sonic Frontiers, you have an open zone. But then again, you talk about Gens or Colors or even Unleash, they're like a straight line, and it's all about reactions, having a great reaction to get to a certain area at a right time. So I think people are just scared that if they were to remake the game, that they would change that aspect. I don't think they'd have to worry about that, because they also say in the interview that they want to take from past Sonic games, right? Like if you look at the main thing here, right, is they're saying that in the future, right, they will ask about the next step forward for Sonic. He says that Sonic Team will take inspiration from past iterations of games. So I don't think they would just, you know, turn Sonic 06 into, you know, a modern boost game. I don't think they would change that completely. If anything, I think they'd like to recreate that vibe and that feeling that game, you know, elicited and gave people. And I don't think you can even make that game really a boost game unless you heavily change it, because remember, with a game like 06, you're going to be playing the levels multiple times, right? You're going to be playing Flame Core, Kingdom Valley, and why am I saying Flame Core, Kingdom Valley, Crescent City, whatever, 3 times each, right? Which each of the characters, obviously, they're each going to go to different parts of the levels and play them differently, but you will be playing the levels multiple times. Now, a big thing that I found out from here is there's a lot of purists, right, with Sonic 06. There's a lot of purists, there's a lot of people that, you know, believe in the original vision, and there's a lot of people that just like how 06 is. Now, I gotta say, man, I gotta tell people, like, and this is like straight up, is, look, man, the game is still one of the, you know, messiest games in the series, right? Story has all sorts of weirdness to it. The cutscenes have all their issues. Obviously, you have, you know, iconic game-breaking bugs and issues, and the load screens, and the open world is very bare bones. Like, the game is heavily flawed, right? And this is coming from someone who likes the game. I recently did my, you know, ranking of my 3D Sonic games after I replayed them, and I enjoyed 06, to be frankly honest with you. I didn't have that many issues with it, and I really loved the level design, because if the level design cares, then for the most part, I'm fine, right? But there's a lot of people, you know, that are purists that are like, hey man, like, they want the game to be how it is, and there's a lot of people debating, well, do we want to see this rewritten, right? That's another thing that caused a big stir conversation point. It's like, if they were to remake the game, they would have to rewrite the story, or at least heavily change it, because they're not going to keep the story as is. They're not going to have Sonic kissing the girl. They're not going to have all this stuff, right? It's going to be more traditional. And I saw people, again, debating Ian Flynn, and some people, you know, making fun of it or not, but I don't know, man. In my opinion, right, and this is just me, and, you know, like I said, I'd love a fun discussion in the comment section, because I know you guys are always cool with that. With me, Ian Flynn has been involved with some of the, like, most important Sonic stories we've got. I mean, he wrote Shadow Dark Beginnings, right? He wrote Shadow Generations. He wrote Sonic Frontiers. You know, he's written a lot of stuff today that people just really love and care about, right? And people keep forgetting this, and I always try to tell people this, right? He himself has confirmed multiple times that he doesn't go rogue. Sonic Team gives him the story, the briefing, and he writes it. Obviously, he can, you know, people can still criticize how things are written, you know, not like, you know, a joke or two or something, but I do think for the most part, like, the dude is working hard, and I think Sonic Team is working hard. And so I feel like if they were to remake Sonic 06, right, and they were to actually, you know, modernize that story, because look, the story of 06 in theory is awesome. Silver being from a destroyed future coming to stop Sonic is fucking cool, right? Shadow working with Gun and trying to figure his way through this journey is awesome. His rivalry with Mephiles is dope. Sonic, you know, and the story with Sonic at least is great, you know, and I love sort of the Final Fantasy like aspect of the game. But so I just feel like if they were to write Elise in better and make her extremely likable, right, instead of just being like, ah, like creepy little princess girl that you just save and it's a little weird, I would love to just see the game flesh her out, you know, and flesh out Soliana as a city and area. Because could you imagine right now we're sort of getting into like what I would like to see from the game. Could you imagine the open areas of Sonic 06 as open zones, like Soliana as a platforming playground, which it kind of was but didn't really do a great job of, but like that area and level as a playground would be so sick. You know, that empty grassy Kingdom Valley area that we always make fun of? Imagine that was a giant playground, like a giant open zone playground, right? I feel like there's a lot of cool potential you could do with a massive open world Soliana with no load screens where everything's interconnected. Like I think a lot of cool shit could come out of that, right? Because the idea of having an open world city is awesome. I mean, I've always loved that idea even since the days of Station Square. Is I think Sonic works with sort of a little hub world or a city, especially where you could talk to NPCs and stuff. And could you imagine like if the game was made nowadays, how cool the side missions would be? We kind of got a tease of them trying to do side missions now, very small with Orbot and Cubot telling you to get the things, but you know, that was like a quest initiation technically, right? And obviously even in 06 back in the day, you had the missions. And could you imagine those missions where, you know, you have to go through the rings, fight enemies? Imagine they all worked properly. They were all super cool. They had more combat because of Frontier's influence. There was no loading, right? Like you just got to an NPC, they gave you the mission, and then it starts. Like I think stuff like that could be incredibly awesome and healthy for the game. And of course, Sonic 06 levels and aesthetics are incredible. That's the thing about Sonic 06 is, yeah, you have a creepy Eggman, yeah, you have some weird designs and movements in the cutscenes, but when people talk about why the art direction for Sonic 06 is so good is because look at Crisis City as a concept. Incredible, right? Not aquatic mine, sorry, like what's that aquatic? There's a lab, the lab that's aquatic where you're walking on the silver balls. You have, you know, White Acropolis, which is really sick. You've got Kingdom Valley, of course, iconic. You've got Flamecore. Like you've got these levels that are mixing realism with fantasy and overall look really cool. I mean, Wave Ocean is weirdly iconic. Also, think of this from a marketing perspective, right? Think about how genius this would be. You would be taking a game, right, and that everybody in the games industry knows and has made fun of. Already the announcement of the game being an 06 remake would have so many headlines. Could you imagine all the headlines being like, Sega remaking their worst game? What best decision they've ever made? Worst decision they've ever made. I feel like there would already be so many like articles and things written about it and the fans debating and everything. And I feel like that's the thing, is you cannot make this unless you 10 out of 10 nail it, right? That's the most important and most craziest thing, is they cannot do this unless they guarantee its success, because this is a game that if it succeeds could be one of the best marketing moves in media, right? It could be one of those genius things where like, holy shit, could you imagine like it turned out incredible or amazing, and then game websites were like, oh my god, Sega turned their worst flop into their best game, or like the Sonic series continues to impress and improve by taking the worst thing and making it incredible. Like I think we could see something crazy here, and like I said, I would love to see a movement start. They would be starting a movement. No one is remaking their bad games into good ones. Everyone's just remaking their best, you know, best hits and making them better, right? And so the idea of being like, yo, we're taking something bad, we're making it peak, and we're taking the ideas everyone loves and make it incredible is an awesome idea. And I have seen people express that at this point, I'd rather just a sequel or a new game or a new thing, which I think is valid too. I think Sonic Team is in a good place where we can continue to have new ideas. But ever since Shadow Generations, I feel like there's a healthy amount of my voice hella cracked. Holy shit. I feel like there's a healthy amount you can do with retreading old ground, but making it feel fresh. I mean, look at Shadow Generations, right? You basically had Sonic Gens in there, but you expanded it. You technically got new levels, you got a new story, and you got a new perspective. And so I would love, for example, a Sonic Heroes remake, right? Fix a lot of those bugs and then add an extra story in there, right? Add an extra character story, add some modern flair to it. Boom, you have a mix of old and new, right? Adventure games. You can flesh out the world, the characters, everything. I feel like there's room to have new stuff, right? Like with a Sonic Frontiers 2 or with whatever they do in the future with Shadow or Sonic Rush or whatever. And I think there's room to make new stuff, but I also think there's room for Sega and Sonic Team to bring back their old stuff because Sonic Team doesn't really explore their old library of Sonic games all that much. I mean, again, we've gotten what? Colors and Generations as our 3D Sonic game remasters in like the last decade, right? They don't remaster or bring back the adventure games, you know, they don't remaster or bring back, Shadow, they don't remaster or bring back '06, obviously. Like they a lot of their history of Sonic games, even Heroes, like you can't really even get it on Steam. Like there's a lot of Sonic games you just have no access to. And I think Sonic Team is aware of that. And I think a good way to bring those games back is the way they did it with Sonic Generations. It's just, okay, let's, make this look better. Maybe they could do, I think in the case of adventure games, you'd have to remake them. But I think, circling back to Sonic '06, because that's the big topic, I understand it's also a game that people have a soft spot for just because of, the characters that are in it, your Mephiles or even Silver, how he's written or some of the stuff. But I really do think, guys, dude, this game is notoriously bad. And it's not to say that people that like it, should be dismissed or anything. I just think that there needs to be at some point a fair conversation, understanding that, all right, I really like this thing, and so I'll play the original when I can on a PC or something, but the remake isn't gonna take that away from it, especially if the original, to me, when something gets remade, if the original creators of it are involved in some capacity, then I think it's more than okay, and it's even more than welcome, right? Because that just means the people that are originally involved and working on it are the ones, making some of the decisions, locking in, and doing some cool shit. And also, remember, '06, guys, I hate to break it to us old heads here, right, was 18 fucking years ago, right? I want you to process that. 2006 was 18 years ago. People were born that year and are now adults. And so a shit ton of people have never even gotten to play that game, right? There's some people that have never played it. Most people, I would say, have not played it, right? And so you need to let people, you don't need to, right? Because Sega's tried to bury this game for a long time. They don't need to, but I think it would be nice for people to experience the best version of that world, that story, that experience. Now, Sega would never re-release the original game just because it, again, is notoriously bad and it would only get bad press. A lot of people would hate it. Even though I do believe in preserving game history, I think it's important, right? But I don't think they would ever do that. And so the remake is really the only option they would have to experience. Because, dude, Silver doesn't do jack shit nowadays, right? And I want Silver to do more, and I hope he does. And I hope a remake of '06 does that, or whatever future game. People don't get to experience why Silver is so cool. They just kind of know he's cool. And with the rumors potentially from Daniel RPK that Silver is going to be a next big thing. In fact, actually, a funny story that we're talking about this is Jeff Fowler had an interview today with the movie. I think it was not the movie team, but he had some kind of interview with a news website where he was talking about how we are going to see more characters, right? It's fun to see fans debate online. He told Entertainment Weekly it'll set the stage for the fourth movie, introducing another video game character. So they are already saying they're going to show a different character. And I don't know, for me, we're at two options or three options. It's either you're going to do Blaze, you're going to do Silver, or you're going to do Metal Sonic, right? I love Amy, but I don't see Amy as a crazy post-credit scene. She's more of oh shit, we got Amy here. I feel like if you want to go full intrigue, full crazy, you go Silver. Especially if, we know that canonically Knuckles has fought Iblis because of the Knuckles show, right? And the idea of maybe potentially Silver being in that world and timeline. And honestly, there's a lot of potential tie-in here. Whatever they do with movie 4, I think it's going to lean lean on some more time travel stuff, or not even just that, but even more stuff like with entering the Sonic world, right? Because we've been on Earth for a long time in the movies, and the idea of potentially being, you know, on different areas of the world is kind of crazy. You know, maybe going back to where Sonic's planet was or different universes. I could totally see that. Now, let's talk about a bit about gameplay, right? Because again, I've seen a lot of people be like, I don't want this to play like modern Sonic games. I want this to be more like an adventure game. I understand that, right? I totally get that. And I think I would like that for this kind of game too, because when you think about the gameplay, right, for Sonic 06, a lot of the areas are a little bit more open. And I guess the best comparison we can make to how it could potentially be would be Shadow Generations Kingdom Valley, right? That, I guess that's a perfect example of how a Sonic 06 level would be if it was purely modernized, right? And I think for the most part, a level like that works. Now, how does that work when you have Sonic going through it and Silver going through it? And again, remember, back in the day in those levels, you would have the interstitial moments where sometimes you get to play as Rouge midway through those levels, right? Or sometimes you get to play as Amy, right? And so you'd have other characters in there with more platforming basis. So I think on the basis of that alone, right, they would have to make them a little bit more adventure-like, and I think that's okay, because if you think about it, Shadow Gens, to be frankly honest with you, is half a boost game, half an adventure game in level design, to be honest. And I said that in my review, right? It feels like a mix of both, and I think they could lean on not having boost if they wanted to do an 06. If anything, you could have the mock speed sections in the game be where you have boost, right? I think that's your best bet. Your biggest thing is if you want to do boost, the mock speed sections are right there for Sonic and the gang. And I think that would be a really cool way to sort of integrate, all right, here's your boost moment. You're all familiar with this. Let's make this a crazy obstacle course moment for you, right? Whereas the levels themselves can just be like typical running around, fighting enemies, doing what you gotta do. And I love that. I love the idea of that. And I think people worrying about that is a big thing where I'm like, it's gonna be okay. I promise you, if they did it and they were to do it, that things are gonna be fine. They're not just gonna turn the game into a boost. I don't even know like why that assumption would even be made. Like, when have they done that? You know, like Sonic Generations was a celebration game, and that was a boost game, right? But that didn't that wasn't them going back to adventure games and making them boost. Like, I don't know, people have this weird thought process that they're just gonna go back and make the games different, which they haven't done that ever, as far as I'm aware, you know, unless I'm forgetting something and I'm blanking on something. And it seems like they're totally capable of making something cool with something from the past. I think this is a good tweet that says it, you know, without going too much onto like Twitter stuff. But let's be clear, an 06 rewrite that improves upon the story and themes that were established in the original game and uplifts the vision they had is welcome and even wanted. A rewrite that attempts to change the intentions of the story is what is unwanted. That's all. I think this is a perfect way to put it, because like I said, the original vision of the story and what it tells is pretty cool. You know, you have these characters that are working together, right, that have different visions and different, you know, places in this world, right, coming together, working together. You have themes of love even in there. You have themes of protection. You have themes of, you know, your sorry, you have character themes of, you know, even Shadow moving on as a character, you know, dealing with PTSD when it comes to Silver and his destroyed future. There's a lot of cool themes and elements. And so as long as I think you keep the core of the theme of the story and keep the core elements that make the story what it was, you can completely change the dialogue while keeping the essence of it. The biggest example of this is Final Fantasy VII. You know, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth are games that are keeping the essence of the original story while making even something completely new in their case. I mean, they're doing a whole other thing. They're doing a whole trilogy remake, but that game is still fundamentally the same story. They're going beat by beat with the events of the game, but it's fleshed out. It's better written. There's more to it. The characters are getting more depth, more story moments. Things are feeling more impactful. And even then, in FF7, trust me, as someone, maybe you guys don't see, as someone who's friends with Aru, I've seen FF7 debates online and how much people, you know, fight back and forth with story changes. But look, the original game will always exist. And again, as long as the vision of the original is there, I think it is fine, to be frankly honest with you. That's just my opinion on that thing. But yeah, dude, I mean, look, when we've been talking about this for a hot minute, just because I have a lot to say about this, but this could be potentially one of the coolest things they ever do. Like I said, you find a new audience. Imagine, dude, Could you imagine? The idea of anything, a game being at any level of how Shadow Generations is with like mid-level set pieces. If they did that for 06, it would be incredible. Having a modernized Silver gameplay style where imagine like his telekinesis worked incredibly well. You can mix some cool platforming with it. Having Shadow vehicles actually, be fun to use potentially, right? And then you have Sonic's levels, which I already really enjoyed. Having them feel cooler, be better, and having all those 6 story modes, having potential set pieces, better design, having an Eggman that isn't creepy, and even having an Eggman that matters a lot more. I think just there is so much potential with 06. Sonic 06 has always been the potential game. And I think the idea of a remake should excite people, not make people, fight. And because I saw there was wars. There was wars online about, oh, it's going to be with the modern cats, the modern mods. Oh, it's going to be like this. It's going to be like that. Like, guys, at the end of the day, here's my stance. A dev team should do what they believe they want to do. If that's what they want to make, if that's what they want to remake, it's not about what you want. It's about what they want. Because at the end of the day, they're also people too. And if their vision, their goal, their thing is, hey, we want to remake this game, it means something to us, right? And you could tell it means something to them because look how sick the Mephiles fight is in Shadow Gens, look how incredible Kingdom Valley is, and look how cool Christ City is, even in base generations. Like, there's definitely some love and care. Even recently, just on social media, they've embraced 06 more. They've embraced a lot of that lore. You have Big the Cat talk about how he's visited Elise in Shadow Gens. Like, there's a lot of cool shit that they understand 06 does and have. Like I said, I think Soliana is an incredible level designed not level design, like visual theme for a level. It feels like it's a FF game, right? I love Kingdom Valley as an area. I think that level is incredibly well put. I think Flame Core is a good mix of like a lava level, but it's really creepy. I think White Acropolis being this like gun military base in the snow is awesome. Like, there's so much. And Crisis City, could you imagine, dude? Like, we've technically seen a bit of what Crisis City can be in a modern sense, but not really in a big fleshed out way as it was. Like, imagine like the crashing down buildings with the flames, everything while you're running through it. Oh my God, like there's some incredible potential there. But of course, as always, I leave the conversation with you guys, everybody. What do you think of a potential Sonic 06 remake? Would you rather they move on? Would you want them to do it? Do you think it is something we should just leave in the past? Because honestly, another thing is like, we just really recently, and we are still dealing with a lot of the ramifications of 06. Like, we still to this day hear, articles talking about 06, hear websites making fun of the Kiss, making fun of that game being broken, all that. I feel like we just recently broke that curse and are getting into good graces with media, right? And people in general not having a bad perception of it. And so I think remaking that game is a big risk that Sonic team would be taking, but I'm truly confident that they would only take that risk if I believed they were in the best spot they possibly could be. And I think they know that too. And also keep in mind with these interviews, they just say shit all the time, right? How many times have you heard like, Izzy could be like, yeah, I'd love to remake the advanced games. Yeah, I'd love to make Adventure 3. Oh yeah, we'd love to remaster this. It's like these companies say these things at these panels, but this one really sparked a discussion because them even acknowledging the potential of remaking 06 of all games is crazy, and I would love to see it one day. So guys, thank y'all for watching. You're the best. I love you. Sorry if I rambled for so long. I just had a lot to say. And of course, I will see you all next time. Peace out.